Hey, how's it going, everybody? I am attorney Michael Ehline. I'm an attorney licensed in California and Texas, and welcome to my natural law channel where I talk about things that matter to me. And this is a really interesting case because I've said all along that I believe that Bathhouse Barry orchestrated the Russia Gate conspiracy lie along with Groom Hillary and all of her buddies in the Democrat Party, and that this is just an ongoing saga. And finally, we're going to get to the bottom of it. Now, the question is whether or not Bathhouse Barry and all of his friends in the leftist news media and all of his commie buddies like James Clapper and all these scumbags that tried to destroy Trump's first term in office and helped rig the second election so he couldn't win can be liable for criminal conspiracy related to treason and sedition. How's it going, Jeff Hates Pigs? So we're going to talk about that right now. And I'm a libertarian, so I'm not a big MAGA supporter or anything like that. But the law is the law, and let's see where it leads us, guys. So the issue is whether or not Tulsi Gabbard and her accusations against Bathhouse Barry, the former president of the United States, can lead to a criminal prosecution and conviction of Bathhouse Barry. And so, and for those of you who don't know about who Bathhouse Barry is, that's former President Obama, Barry Soetoro, who many say is the spawn of the CIA and related to the Bush family, part of the globalist conspiracy, who, along with MI6 and his globalist friends at the World Economic Forum and other countries, are liable for a criminal conspiracy against Donald Trump. Hey, what's up, Stephen Seven Quarter? Yeah, well, Bathhouse Barry. I mean, everybody knows that Barack Obama was accused of hanging out at bathhouses and that he obviously was gay. And a lot of people say that his wife is really a trans man masquerading as a woman. And we'll get into that in another show. But a lot of people feel that he basically lied to the American people about who he really is in order to get that position, and that the CIA helped him. So let's get in. Of course, we know that he hung out with what's his name, Epstein, right? Like all those guys hung out with Epstein, but the same people who want to legalize sex with minors are now going after Donald Trump, saying, "Oh, he's this and he's that. He hung out with Jeff Epstein." Well, so did all your guys, but your party wants to legalize it and normalize it, and we saw that happen in California, where the law was changed to make it easier for grown men to get it on with little boys. And we know they push that in the California public school system as well as being normal. And it's even on their rainbow flag, flag, where they have the map, the minor attracted person symbol on their flag. But somehow it was wrong for Trump. Cop Tua, that's right, Jeff hates pigs. So I'm headed to the gym, but before I start my road show, where I'll try to look over when I'm at stop signs, I want to just break down what the allegations are. So the allegations are related to a treasonous conspiracy related to the 2016 presidential election. Specifically, the allegations include treason under Title 18 USC Section 2381. You're probably right, Seven. And it may not even be important to talk about anymore. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see, bro. But Trump and Gabbard claim that Bathhouse Barry and his officials, including former DNI lead James Clapper, who I think is a treasonous, lying piece of trash, who lied about Obama's spying program on military veterans, people who purchased firearms, people who go to church on Sunday, as being potential domestic violent extremists, lied under oath in front of Congress about illegally collecting data from our cell phones. Will do, BZ. And hey, think about it. What's going on? Good seeing you. I started the show a little bit early, but before I head to the gym, I'm just going to read off the allegations and then we'll talk about it. So, and then of course, CIA Director John Brennan, another piece of trash, who I believe should be in prison, along with James Comey, a total lying piece of garbage, piece of trash, and others engaged in a conspiracy to undermine Trump's 2016 election victory by manufacturing and politicizing intelligence suggesting that Russian interference, right? They're trying to say that he was a Russian plant. And of course, this is after Broom Hillary gave our plutonium and uranium to Russia and got $500,000 from the Russian government to speak at a seminar for them. So, I mean, these people are unbelievable, right? So, they're Trump and Gabbard are alleging that this was part of a year-long coup to delegitimize Trump's presidency through the Russian investigation, the Russiagate investigation. That's what they were doing, of course. We know that Bathhouse Barry and the Weather Underground, self-avowed Marxist communist trash, like his former head of the DAJ. What was his name? I'll remember it in a minute. But these people are unbelievable. Trying to take down the U.S. government, trying to take down our constitutional republic, right? That's what the claims are. And the claims center on the idea that Obama's administration used false intelligence, including what we now know to be a totally fake dossier called the Steele dossier that was purchased by Hillary Clinton. And she originally brought it to the CIA, and the CIA said, "We're not touching that. We know it's bullshit." So what did she do? Allegedly, she used her friends Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. We know that 99% of government employees are Democrats, right? And most of them are very political. They don't want to lose their pensions, just like NPR. They don't want to lose their government money, their handouts from the U.S. taxpayer, right? They don't want to lose that money. So they're going to do anything they can to keep a guy out like Trump, who's going to expose all the waste, fraud, and abuse in government, of course. That's exactly what they did. Say many. So they used the Steele dossier to smear Trump and subvert the will of the American people. And they got a lot of people who were on the fence to hate Trump and say that he was a Russian agent, right? We know that. So let's get into the charges. Conspiracy to defraud the United States. 18 USC section 371. So the allegation is misuse of authority under Title 18, section 371. Yeah, it takes a lot of wool to ignore that. That's right, Jeff hates pigs. Absolutely. I agree. And then misuse of authority under 18 USC section 641. And so there are suggestions that Obama and his officials misused government resources to target the Trump campaign. Though the one that I don't like is the surveillance and spying allegations, because we know that Bathhouse Barry was using surveillance to go after white people who served in the military, who own firearms, who support the Second Amendment. We know that he did that. We know that Sleepy Joe did that as well. But was it really Sleepy Joe, Otto Pen Joe, or was it really Obama? Because we know that Obama, basically from 9 to 5, was locking in every day practically, while Sleepy Joe was hanging out at the beach. And many people say that he was logging into the White House on purpose so he could run the government, that he secretly ran Sleepy Joe's White House. That's what a lot of people say. So Trump has repeatedly claimed that Obama spied on the 2016 campaign, and we know that he did, including through wiretapping and other forms of surveillance, which Trump says is treasonous, which I agree. These claims stem from the Crossfire Hurricane investigation by the FBI, the illegal, that's right, Seven Quarter, the illegal Crossfire Hurricane investigation by the FBI, which looked into potential ties between Trump's campaign and Russia. Well, it totally ignored the $500,000 Broom Hillary got, or the fact that she sold our uranium and plutonium to the Russian government. I mean, are you kidding me? It's crazy. So the accusations are largely based on newly declassified documents released by Gabbard's office, which allegedly show pre-election intelligence assessments, um, that downplayed Russian interference. So the our intelligence agencies knew that Trump wasn't a Russian agent. Okay, they knew that the whole time. But but Bathhouse Barry and Broom Hillary and all of her Democrat buddies wanted to do everything they could to take down Trump. They wanted to make sure that there would never be uh, any anyone exposing the waste, fraud, and abuse in government. They did, absolutely, they did not want Doge happening because they knew that if they lost funding to Planned Parenthood, that if they lost funding to NPR and all their communist run media that brainwashes the American people, that if they lost funding to the National Education Association and the blue haired rainbow mafia public school teachers, which is like 99% Marxist, anti American, who teaches hatred of America, that they would lose support, that they would lose funding, they would lose money, they would lose that cash that helps them keep in power, helps them run the media and their propaganda networks at ABC, CNN, PMSNBC, and all the government run far left Marxist anti American news media. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree, Robert, and Jeff hates pigs. So these newly declassified documents show that pre-election intelligence assessments always knew that Trump was not a Russian agent. They knew it the whole time. So post-election leaks and reports amplified it to harm Trump. Of course they did, Texas Pete. And the narrative frames this as a deliberate effort to delegitimize Trump's victory. Well, of course that's what they were trying to do. And that led to the Mueller investigation. We know that Mueller is a far left commie globalist piece of trash. So of course, that thanks, man. I'm always trying to look cool. Think about it. They wanted to do everything they can to make it look like Trump was a Russian agent. That's what it was all about. They used NPR and all their far left commie buddies in the news media to push that. I'll try my best, Sean, to get a job. Actually, I've been up since 0400 working on appellate briefs. By the way, guys, I am Michael Ehline. I'm a lawyer licensed in California and Texas, and my channel is all about natural law. And obviously, I support the Republic. And America is a constitutional republic, not a democracy. Okay, so that means that the rights of the individual are more important than the rights of the mob. And demos is the Greek word for mob, mobocracy. We don't support that on my channel. We support the unalienable rights of we, the people. That's right, because the people are sovereign. Jeff hates pigs and SE. So the allegations against Bathhouse Barry and Broom Hillary led to the Mueller investigation, impeachments, and heightened U.S. Russia tensions. Okay. So, what are the chances of a conviction for Obama and his alleged co conspirators? We know that Obama met with all of his high level cabinet officials, or most of them, and they were even emailing themselves because they wanted to be protected under executive privilege. So we know about that. But Robert, I'm not a law guy. I'm a natural law attorney, and I support the Constitution, unlike you communist, Marxist, anti-American Democrats. But we'll get into it a little more. So what are the chances of conviction for Bathhouse Barry and his co-conspirators? Clapper, Brennan, Comey, Kerry, Rice, McCabe. Will they be convicted of these crimes? Well, I'm just telling you as a lawyer, the chances are very low. And the practical considerations and evidentiary considerations are what I'm going to look at as a lawyer. Thanks, E2, and thanks, Jeff Hates Pigs. Good seeing you live under the microscope. So, what is the definition of treason? 18 USC section 2831, 2381. Treason requires levying war against the United States or adhering to its enemies, giving them aid and comfort. Well, we know that the British MI6 were working with Bathhouse Barry. You know, they flooded their country with millions of illegal aliens. If the locals even talk about it, they're thrown in prison, right? Can't say anything bad about Islam or all the tax-funded babies that all these people that they flooded their country with are doing. So Maybe they are an enemy of the United States, so they'd have to be classified as an enemy of the United States, though. And we also know, think about it. Make sure to double tap that screen. That's right. But we know the communist Chinese didn't want to have Trump in power. I mean, they've given millions of dollars to the Clintons, the Clinton Foundation, to his library. And we know the Democrats can be bought off easily, right? Of course. If you're a billionaire who doesn't need their money, it's probably a lot harder. So let's look at my analysis. So, first of all, treason would require war against the United States or adhering to its enemies, giving them aid and comfort. It's a high bar requiring clear evidence of intent to betray the nation to a foreign enemy. So it's a tough bar to meet, guys. So the accusations do not probably meet the legal threshold for treason based on my analysis. Multiple investigations, including the Senate Intelligence Committee report, endorsed by Marco Rubio and other globalists, confirmed Russia's aggressive efforts to interfere with the 2016 election, contradicting the claims that the Russian narrative was entirely fabricated. But they've tried to interfere with every election, just like their friends, the communist Chinese. So I don't know that has much weight. And to me, Marco Rubio is a piece of trash anyway. So I don't know. Good seeing you, East Carbon Fat Fingers. Um, so they're alleging that there's no evidence that suggests Obama or his officials aided a foreign enemy. Well, I would take exception to that. I would say that the UK, the Israelis, and probably the communist Chinese are not our friends. And they're the ones who primarily interfere with pretty much all of our elections. So they're the ones who are trying to make sure we have fiat currency and not get back into gold-based currency, right? So that's a problem. Now, a federal prosecutor, Keith Zeidenberg, called the threats to prosecute Obama nonsense. Well, we know that Zeidenberg, I think he's a dual citizen, by the way. I don't think he's just a U.S. citizen. So I don't know that Zeidenberg or his friends at the Communist Front Press are the best sources of information. What do you guys think? Put it in the comments. But treason is one of the most difficult crimes to prove, and the courts would likely dismiss the charges due to lack of evidence, according to Obama supporters and the leftist press. So Representative Jim Hymes states that no judge would take these claims seriously, predicting they would be met with laughter. Of course. The next question would be a conspiracy to defraud, 18 USC sections 371. This requires an agreement to deceive or obstruct the government's lawful functions. It would need evidence of a coordinated effort to falsify intelligence or mislead the public. Well, that's what they did. That's what the Democrats did for Trump's entire presidency. So I think the evidence is there. The declassified documents cited by Gabbard are contested by the Marxist Democrats, including Representative Jim Jaime and Mark Warner, and they argue that it's politically motivated and contradict years of bipartisan investigations. Sure they do, buddy. Sure they do. The Senate Intelligence Committee, the Mueller report, Obama's boy, right? Sure. So it's all contradicted. Now, the Steele dossier, while controversial, was not the sole basis for the Russia probe, according to the Marxist Democrats. So they say that its use was limited, and without direct evidence of intent to defraud, this charge is weak, they say. Okay. So to them, the likelihood is very low. And of course, DC prosecutors and DC jurors, I mean, they're 99% Democrat, probably isn't gonna get them anywhere in DC. So I think if the venue is in DC, they don't have a chance. They're going to have a far left Marxist judge. They're going to have 99% Democrats, probably a lot of black people who believe in identity politics, who are going to support Obama no matter what the evidence is. Say many experts who I've been able to speak with over the last few days. That's why I haven't done a show about this yet. So based on that, they're going to argue that it's a political dispute, not a criminal one, even though there's overwhelming evidence that Bathhouse Barry orchestrated the Russiagate probe and the Russia narrative, along with his Democrat friends in the Marxist Democrat-run Congress at the time. Now, misuse of authority, 18 USC 641. It's getting better now. This involves misappropriating government property or resources for an unauthorized purpose. Marxist Democrats argue that there's no specific evidence in the sources showing misuse of resources beyond general claims of politicized intelligence. But they just ignore the emails back and forth from Obama and from Hillary. They ignore the illegal server that Hillary had, that she violated her non-disclosure agreement, that she was trying to hide evidence from the American people, serving top secret and classified information on her server that was in fact tapped into by the communist Chinese and the Russians. So that's something for you to think about. So I have a problem believing pretty much anything that the experts say. What do you guys think? What do you think, Jeff Hates Pigs or Kevin Bernarski? Good seeing you, brother. So they're saying that there was an investigation conducted within legal bounds, and it was confirmed by multiple biased reviews of Democrats in the FBI and the CIA. So, of course, there's nothing to see here. Move along, move along. Um, so, the bottom line is they're saying there's not detailed evidence of specific misuse, and that this charge won't hold up. But it very well could hold up, guys. It's not over yet. Now, the surveillance allegations, that's what makes me upset about Bathhouse Barry and the Democrats, how they use Twitter and Instagram and Facebook to do everything they could to ban and censor anyone who talked about the true Hunter Biden laptop story. They used retired CIA agents who all lied and said that it looked like Russian disinformation, of course, which it wasn't. It was true. And that Sleepy Joe was, in fact, the big guy, and that he was on the take from Ukraine as well as the communist Chinese, along with his scumbag piece of garbage drug addict son. So that's what really bothers me more than anything is the surveillance allegations. So claims of illegal spying, wiretapping Trump Tower, uh, allegedly have been debunked since Trump took his first term in 2017. But now we know that this information was hidden. This information was concealed by our own government. And that information, they tried to bleach bit it off of government computers. And that's all going to come out, guys. So this isn't over yet. So the Crossfire Hurricane investigation was authorized under FISA protocols, but it was illegal. We know that Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, hardcore Marxist Democrats, said that they had an insurance policy to make sure that Trump wouldn't take office. So as a lawyer, that gives me pause for thought. This looks pretty serious. So they say, the Marxist Democrats who run the news media say that no evidence support the claims that Bathhouse Barry personally ordered unlawful surveillance. Well, I'm going to tell you as a lawyer that under the law of master and servant, vicarious liability, that Obama is vicariously liable. Bathhouse Barry is vicariously liable for what his servants did while he was in office. And there's certain things that aren't covered by executive privilege, guys. So that's something that we can also talk about in another show. So the Marxist Democrats say that these claims have been investigated and dismissed by multiple all Democrat and globalist Republicans, so therefore they don't have a chance of succeeding, including Trump's own Justice Department. Of course, we know that all the globalists that he put into power at the recommendations of people like Marco Rubio worked against him the whole time he was in office for his first term. So that's something to think about as well. So legal experts and critics, including some Democrats and some Republicans, Rhino Republicans, right, say that these accusations are politically motivated. And therefore, they're just aimed at distracting from the Epstein controversy. And of course, we all want the Epstein stuff to come out. The problem that I have is that the Democrats have passed laws to try to diminish the penalties for men to have butt sex with little boys. So I'm trying to figure out, why aren't they praising Trump for trying to help them in their minor attracted person agenda, right? Right? It just doesn't make any sense to me. It seems to me like They should be praising him and worshiping him for hanging out with Jeff Epstein, like all the Democrats were doing, and pretty much every Hollywood celebrity that you can think of hanging out at Epstein Island, right? So uh, the Senate Intelligence Committee's findings, the Mueller report, and other reviews, they say contradict the narrative of the fabricated Russia probe. And the courts require admissible direct evidence, which they say is absent. Well, they tried to delete it off the White House and the DOJ computers. So we'll see what happens now that that evidence has been found, right? Remember, data reconstructionists have been able to get that information finally. So they're saying Representative Jaime says that, and other far left Marxist Democrats say the claims would not survive judicial scrutiny. Now, the other issue is the statute of limitations for these alleged crimes. Treason has no statute of limitations. Okay, so that's one, and it's the only crime that's actually in the Constitution, by the way. So there would be no issue about treason, but the Democrats say that the lack of evidence makes this irrelevant. Of course. Now, conspiracy to defraud, that's 5 years from the last overt act. And since the alleged acts occurred in 2016 to 2017, Democrats argue that the statute expired. But here's the problem with that, guys. I'm just telling you as a lawyer. So a conspiracy continues until the last conspiratorial act. So every time one of Bathhouse Barry's buddies went on the news and accused Trump of Russia, that is a furtherance of the conspiracy. So I believe, based on my over 20 years experience as a lawyer and a natural law advocate, that the conspiracy is still ongoing. And so I do not believe the statute of limitations has expired for conspiracy. And the only way you can end the conspiracy is to basically one of the conspirators would have to go to the government and confess. And that's the only way. That's when the 5-year statute would start ticking for that person. But they could still be prosecuted. It would just stop the clock from ticking. Okay? That's how it works. Give me a bunch of ones if you understand that. So if the Democrats say if new evidence can show an ongoing act, the clock could restart. But according to them, there is no evidence. And there never is when it comes to anybody that they don't like, right? So the surveillance related crimes, typically that's 5 years, and that would be the wiretapping law under 18 U.S.C. Section 2511. Any alleged illegal surveillance from 2016 would be time barred by 2021 unless the surveillance continued. Okay, so that is a problem. So the statute of limitations applies unless new evidence shows an ongoing criminal activity, like I said. So even if time barred, civil lawsuits could theoretically be pursued. But those face similar evidentiary hurdles. So he can still sue all these guys, right? And if he does, now he's going to be able to get discovery. So we'll be able to get all their cell phones, their computer hard drives, everything. Probably the stuff that the NSA has been illegally keeping on the American people ever since Bathhouse Barry authorized it and had his people lie under oath and say that we weren't being spied on by our own government. Okay. So the alleged co-conspirators like James Clapper, John Brennan, James Comey, Frankenstein, John Kerry, Susan Rice, and Andrew McCabe could all be sued. But of course, the Marxist Democrats say that there is no evidence that ties them to anything, which is not true. We've got the emails now. So data reconstructionists have been able to get that. So that's not true. They do have the evidence. So the Senate Intelligence Committee, the Mueller report, the fabricated Mueller report, found no misconduct in the Russia probe initiation, which is complete bullshit. So double tap that screen. That's right. Think about it. So critics argue that Gabbard's report cherry picks documents to fit a narrative, ignoring the broader context, of course. And then, of course, Heim's statement that judicial dismissal applies to all the named individuals. Well, that can all be tested by a 12b6 motion, right? So that we can figure that out in the federal court. We can do that either criminally or civilly. They can bring their demur or their motion to strike, and we can see what happens. Okay, so Trump's accusations against Obama and his officials are obviously true. And And they center on a treasonous conspiracy tied to the 2016 Russia investigation, alleging treason and conspiracy to defraud and misuse of authority. There's a low likelihood that it's going to succeed, but not for the reasons of law. It's because if they're going to be brought in Washington, D.C., again, it's 99% Democrat guys, highly partisan. Good luck. Good luck, Trump, winning that one. He would have to push it into the 5th district, get it somehow, get a motion to change the venue in order to win that case, in my opinion. So all of these so-called contradictory findings from rhinos and Marxist Democrats from all the hearings that they had, that doesn't mean anything. So as far as the pedophiles go, well, just remember that far more Democrats went to Epstein Island than Republicans. So I don't think it's going to go anywhere because the Democrat Party would lose everything. These are the same people that are trying to legalize map love. They're the one they passed a law in California to make it easier for older men to get it on with little boys. And they're pushing for this stuff. They're pushing for the whole nonsense that boys can be girls and girls can be boys, that they should be taking hormones kindergarten through 12th grade, right? So that's another reason why you want to homeschool your kids, by the way. And yeah, the only cult that I'm a member of, Damien, let me see here, is we're actually Frosty to Glacier. The only cult that I'm a member of is the cult of parenting. And I don't believe that you and your blue-haired, rainbow flag-waving lowlifes at the public school system should be pushing all this bullshit on our children. And I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not a MAGA guy. But I do support a lot of the things that Donald Trump is trying to do, like returning freedom back to parents, away from these whack jobs that went to these government-run schools that are trying to brainwash our kids. What do you guys think? Do you think that parents are the ones that should decide the sexual education of their children? Or do you think that these blue-haired whack jobs that the Democrats have running the National Education Association should be the ones that get to decide the sexual identities of your children? Do you think that public school teachers should be secretly making your boy wear a dress and referring to him as they, them? Do you think that that's normal? Put it in the comments. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Do you really think that that's normal? That should be acceptable? Because I am a libertarian and I do have a lot of conservative values. I'm a recovering Democrat. I was a conservative Democrat. I believe in the Second Amendment and stuff like that. So obviously, the Democrat Party left me. I didn't leave them. But the modern day Democrat Party is just a bunch of weirdos, in my opinion. You got a bunch of freaking freaks in that party now. And they just want to do everything they can to get their hands on our children. And that bothers me. I'm not into all that stuff. What do you guys think? Do you think that's normal? That a public school teacher thinks that they should be able to secretly groom your son into thinking that he's a girl? Do you think that's normal? What do you guys think about that? So yeah, in that respect, I support a lot of the stuff that Trump does. Now, is he a good guy? Probably not. Barry Sotero, Bathhouse Barry, was a complete piece of shit. But you guys worship him like he's some kind of demigod. So tell me about that. Talk to me about that. What's going on with that? Bathhouse Barry, a complete fraud. Him and Big Mike. But you want to call me a cultist? You guys worship these guys like they're some kind of superheroes or something. And you think, did you hear that Bathhouse Barry just came out the other day and said that he thinks that I'll have a GAY male mentor? Are you kidding me? Right? That's exactly what they've done with the public school system. Have you ever met a straight public school teacher? Have you? I think I've met a couple, but really, have you really met many of them? I mean, lately, have you with the BLM flags, the rainbow flags all over the public schools? You drive into the school parking lot, you see their bumper stickers. It's like every other car's got a rainbow flag on it. I mean, I'm totally cool with people, doing whatever they want to do, like grown adults doing what they want to do. I'm a libertarian, but what the hell do you think you're doing trying to push that shit on my kids? What's wrong with you? What do you guys think about that? Tell me in the comments. What do you guys think? Do you think that's normal that these grown men want to push that stuff on our little boys, and that they want little boys to compete in girls' sports? I mean, really? That's crazy to me. So, in any event, what ended up happening is, well, we saw what happened. Sleepy Joe gets into power. One of his very first executive orders was to reverse Trump's executive order of shelter in place and then flood our country with at least 20 million illegal aliens by some estimates, immediately putting them on SNAP benefits, having them declared temporarily protected status, but they're still illegal. The Democrats like to say, oh, well, they're not illegal if they're under protected status. No, the United States Code still says they're illegal aliens. They're not immigrants, they're illegal immigrants. Less than 3% of them got jobs. They came up here, they got free hotels, they were put into sanctuary cities where they would be protected from immigration enforcement. They got free hotels, they got SNAP benefits, they got free cell phones, and they lived off of us. And why did that happen? Well, because the Democrat Party, by doing that, picks up congressional seats. They use the U.S. Census in these sanctuary cities to gerrymander to create congressional seats. And that's really what that was all about. And in the meantime, we had Venezuelan prison gangs, Tren de Aragua, MS-13, all these guys coming into our country, having their way with our women, and the Marxist-run Democrat press covered it up and tried to make light of it. Oh, these poor immigrants. The vast majority of them were military-aged males, and they were not working. They were just receiving benefits from you and I so they could help the Democrats redistrict. Now, by most estimates, if the illegal aliens were forced to leave California, the Democrats would lose 5 House seats. So my question for you guys is, why can't the Democrats try and win elections based on popularity instead of gerrymandering using illegal aliens in the census? Well, I think I know the answer. It's because the vast majority of Americans don't support public school teachers trying to tell their kids that they're gay, trying to make them wear dresses, trying to let little boys compete in female sports. The vast majority of Americans don't support that. These are fringe groups. And unfortunately, these billionaire whack jobs, like people like maybe BlackRock, for example, they support that crap. People like Epstein, they support that crap. They're the ones pushing that because they're weirdos. And they just give money to these political parties, these politicians, these corrupt politicians, and in exchange, laws are passed to make it easier to make this stuff legal for them because they want to have their way with your kids. So I would say that that's probably one of the biggest reasons. And then, of course, Bathhouse Barry regularly hanging out at gay bars in Chicago and then lying about it and having the press cover it up for him. That was their boy. And they did not want Trump in office. Now, whether or not Trump was friends with Epstein, whether or not he did stuff with kids, we're going to find that out hopefully soon. Because obviously I don't support that. But that's the difference between me and the Democrats. I'm not going to sit there and say he's our man no matter what. I look at most politicians, including Trump, as basically power hungry people. But at least in this case, being a Second Amendment rights attorney, I think that we did well for ourselves. Having a guy like Sleepy Joe flooding our country with illegal aliens, trying to push this, boys are girls and girls are boys, that's just too much for me. So I'm looking at the lesser of the two evils. Now, what about you guys? What do you think? Give me a bunch of ones if you support Trump's policies. Give me a bunch of twos if you support the Marxist, anti-American, communist Democrat policies. I'd like to see what my audience has to say. Do you think that it's okay for taxpayers to be forced to pay for illegal alien criminals, many of them violent and sexual predators, to be able to come into our country and not be deported? Do you think that that's okay? I want to know what you guys have to say. I'm curious. So, by the way, guys, normally I'm wearing a suit and a tie, but I'm headed to the gym. And I would normally do from my office a really cool show for you where I do reaction videos and stuff like that. But just to circle back to, can Bathhouse Barry be prosecuted and convicted of treason? I think he could, but there's a lot of thresholds that would have to be met. We would have to prove that he was working in concert with enemies of the United States. Now, it's unclear in the constitutional provisions, and I need to shepherdize some of the case law. It's unclear in the constitutional provisions whether it would have to be a declared enemy, or can an enemy be defined as someone working against the interests of the United States? Because if that's the case, we know that MI6 was helping the Obama administration fabricate evidence against Donald Trump. And if it can be determined based on the law that that is an enemy of the United States, there's a 99% probability that Bathhouse Barry could be convicted of treason. But either way, when you see the news media and all these people cover up for Bathhouse Barry and lying James Clapper, lying under oath in front of Congress about illegal spying on the American people, it really gives you pause for thought, right? What do you guys think? It blows my mind that James Clapper was not prosecuted for perjury. The guy should be in prison. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. Now, we know that under Sleepy Joe, Obama's third term, that the government was illegally spying on us again, and they got caught again. The U.S. Congress released a report a couple of years ago that Sleepy Joe's White House was once again illegally spying on the American people, the same way that Bathhouse Barry was. And that spying program was almost a mirror image of Bathhouse Barry's illegal spying program, targeting white people, white males, and anyone who purchased a firearm or a Bible, who shopped at Dick's Sporting Goods or Cabela's, was automatically labeled a potential domestic violent extremist. This is no joke, guys, and I've done a video on this. Hey, Jody, good seeing you. And it's funny when I see Marxist Democrats like laugh about it and stuff and try to diminish it, but the evidence is there. I mean, it's a released report. I did a report about it. I did a show about it where I showed you the documentation, and it's all out there. It's all out there. It definitely happened. The problem with the Marxist Democrats is they believe whatever CNN, ABC, CBS, and PMSNBC tells them what to think, so that they're not critical thinkers. And that makes sense because the public school system that they worship doesn't teach critical thinking. Critical thinking is something that you learn typically from your parents. Brains and butt jobs that teach at the public schools and the university system, that's what the schools churn out. And that's why Rockefeller imported the public school system to the United States from Prussia, because he wanted a nation of workers, not of thinkers. And so it's a real problem. Let me see here. Now, I'm seeing a comment here. So Mark Aguilar says, Trump wants to make it okay to spy on everyone. You ain't fooling nobody. Well, the problem is Barry Soetoro, Bathhouse Barry, Sleepy Joe were illegally doing it. And I don't hear you saying anything about that. And so that's a problem for me. So that's why I am not a partisan. That's why I became a libertarian. I think both parties are terrible. But I absolutely think that Trump's policies are a million times better than the Marxist Democrats. They're trying to make us like Canada, right? Where if you don't take their shot, or if you say anything that's true, like you talk about the Hunter Biden laptop, they'll shut down your social media accounts. You can't talk about natural healing. You can't talk about vitamins, nutrition, because that's misinformation. You just have to do whatever Pfizer says, right? I mean, and talk about the party of war. When I was a Democrat, the Democrats wanted nothing to do with war. And now they're all about Palantir. They're all about sending money over to Ukraine, laundering money back to their political campaigns. It's just it's a shit show, guys. I mean, what the hell happened to my Democrat Party? Bowing down to China? That's right. Look at that. Star-Lord wants Biden in 2028. That just shows you how retarded these guys are. I mean, it's a cult, guys. Both parties. So that's why I try to do these shows and teach you guys about natural law, that our rights come from our creator, not from man, not from the government. That parents need to homeschool their kids, that you need to homestead, that you need to grow your own food. You need to form parallel systems outside of the government-run system. Get away from all that political brainwashing and start learning critical thinking. Stop bowing down to the Pfizer's and the Merck and all these other big corporations that pay off your politicians to tell you that I'm telling you disinformation while they're poisoning you and your children. And so that's why I'm telling you guys right now, share these videos with your friends. Always double tap that screen or hit that like and subscribe button and hit that bell, because you're not going to meet too many lawyers like me who say what they mean and mean what they say. My yes is my yes and my no is my no. There's not too many people who are defined like me, who are actually critical thinkers, who can think beyond political ideology and teach you about the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, John Locke versus Hobbes, the difference between federalism and anti-federalism, which I am an anti-federalist. Teach you about Andrew Jackson and how he paid down our national debt to zero, and that the banksters did everything they could to destroy him, and that ultimately Woodrow Wilson, a traitor to this country, turned over our financial system to a bunch of foreign banks, the privately run Federal Reserve Bank, and that morons like you lefties think that we need a Federal Reserve. Morons like you lefties think that fiat currency is a good thing. Well, we're what, 30 trillion or something dollars in debt, where we're paying more in interest payments on our debt that we bring in gross domestic product. You guys worship these guys like they're some kind of superheroes. It just blows me away. We need to return our system back to a gold, silver, and intrinsic value-based currency system. What do you guys think about that? Does that make me some kind of a psycho, tinfoil hatter, that I think that the Constitution should be abided by, that we should make sure that we obey what the Constitution says, that we should abolish the 16th Amendment, which by historical records show that it wasn't properly passed? Or do you think that we should continue on this road of debt slavery and a dual party system where we basically have Marxist Democrats burning American flags in the streets, waving foreign flags, and telling two-parent families that they're bigots and homophobes for not wanting their children exposed to their death cult, their Planned Parenthood death cult? What do you guys think? Give me a bunch of ones if you support traditional American values. Give me a bunch of twos if you support the Marxist Democrat value system, their death cults. I want to know what you guys have to say. Let me see what you guys have to say. Give it to me. That's right, Pete Weathers. I think so. I think that all politicians are corrupt. So I've lobbied Congress. I actually drafted the second cruise ship, like I was a co-drafter of the second Cruise Ship Safety Act. And I saw how the cruise lines went in after us and were able to pay off these politicians to strip out all the penalty provisions, like man overboard systems, stuff like that, to where, yeah, there's a law, but there's no penalty. There's no enforcement provision. And that's what they do. You know, if you got money, you just pay these guys off and even if, let's put it this way. You bring in an RAPE victim who was abused by the ship's crew on one of these cruise ships. You bring them with you. You're lobbying to get the Cruise Ship Safety Act passed. Well, they know that constituent's in their district. So what do? They go, hey, I'll tell you what, to the cruise ship, give me $5,000 for my campaign. I'm going to go talk to the other guy. He's on the other side of the aisle. He might be a Republican or a Democrat. And I'll make sure that he votes against it. right? Or I'll make sure that we pull the teeth out so there's no enforcement provision. So it'll be a win for me. I can tell my constituents who were abused that I voted in favor of the protect children on cruise ships and make myself look good so I can get reelected, right? Because it's an emotional issue, right? You can't just win on money. You've got to be able to play to your audience. But that's all it is a play, like a Shakespearean play. And that's what they do. And so they'll just get the guy down the aisle. Hey, Carnival's coming by. They're going to donate some money to your campaign. Do me a favor. This is a hypothetical, by the way, for you guys at Carnival. I'm not looking to get sued, right? But just bring in your guys, bring in your lobbyists, give the guy down the aisle for me 10 grand or whatever. Take care of his political campaign. Maybe get some free cruise ship tickets for his wife and kids, and you'll be fine. Or maybe tell us when your next cruise ship's going to be coming out, or your next big thing's coming out, so we can buy some stock in your company. Or maybe you can arrange it to where we can get some stock options, right? It's like Nancy Pelosi, become a half a billionaire, right? Or like any of these Marxist Democrats who go into office in debt and they come out multimillionaires, like Barry Soetoro and Bathhouse Barry and all of his buddies, right? So anyways, that's kind of all I really had to say. Will Bathhouse Barry be prosecuted for treason? It's 50-50. Will he win? Well, if it's brought in Marxist-run Washington, D.C. with leftist judges and leftist juries, I would say there's a 0% chance that Donald Trump would be able to win that. Now, could he bring a claim against these guys civilly and sue them and maybe get that, maybe come up with some kind of diversity argument to get it pulled out of D.C. into a more traditional America where they're not brainwashed by CNN on his jury? Yes, I think he could. And I think that that's where this case is probably headed. I think that the evidence, there's now overwhelming evidence that Barry Soetoro, Bathhouse Barry Obama, orchestrated the false Russiagate lie to try to make Donald Trump look like he was a Russian agent. And he did that to try to undermine his first presidency. And he did. He was successful at that. And I think that civilly, Donald Trump could bring claims against them. And I believe that the conspiracy is not ended. I believe that the 5-year statute of limitations, as long as these guys are still lying to the press about it and stuff like that, they're furthering the conspiracy. It's called an act in furtherance of the conspiracy. And there's civil conspiracy and there's criminal conspiracy. And I believe that the criminal part probably isn't going to fly. We know that the FBI and the CIA is like 80% Obama Democrat holdovers. We know they're not going to help. But I believe that if he's able to get a change of venue, that he Trump probably civilly has a chance to go after these guys. And he could probably sue them under Title 42, Section 1983 as state actors for violating his civil rights, his civil right to run for president, et cetera, et cetera. Check this out, guys. Woohoo! Headed to the gym. You seeing what I'm seeing? That's what I'm talking about. Oh, yeah. Hello. Hello. All right. So now I am married and I'm happily married, but I still have the right to look. What do you guys think? Give me a bunch of ones if you think that married men have the right to look. See if I can turn this thing over here. We have the right to look, right, guys? The right to look. All right. So I'm just trying to find a place to park over here. So I am Michael Ehline. I am a California and Texas lawyer, and I'm also an inactive U.S. Marine. I still dig chicks. So try and hold it against me. Just try. So I'll take a couple of questions from you guys before I go. Let's see here. Oh, that's definitely a woman. Oh, yeah, man. I love Latinas. Latinas all the way. I'm married to one. I'm married to a Salvadorian. I love Latin women. They are the best. They're traditional. She helps me out with the house, keeps it squared away so I can go out and work. I provide the protection, the weapons. My son's in judo, teaching him how to be a real man. They're homeschooled, so they're not going to be brainwashed by all these idiots at the National Education Association. So, well, Dr. Donna, I already know what your answer is going to be. Look at heart, I'm still a 19-year-old Marine humping the hills of Camp Pendleton. But also in my soul, I know you don't have to tell me. You've already convicted me, Dr. Donna. I take it back. Even though I'm not Catholic, I'll give you the cross sign. I love you, Dr. Donna. And that's what I like about you, Dr. Donna, because you hold me accountable. And we men need to be held accountable by the ladies. It's the women who provide that spiritual guidance within the household. They just are amazing. So I appreciate it, Dr. Donna. Let me see here. Now, up dog, can you marry several? I don't know. I guess it depends on your religion. I wouldn't recommend it. Women tend to be pretty jealous. So if you marry a couple women, they're going to end up probably taking the shitty to you as well as each other. So up dog 59. Well, think about it. I'm all about the brunettes. Uh, I just like Filipinos and Latinas to me are just the sexiest women on the planet. And Thai women as well, but unfortunately, if you're in Thailand, you don't even know if it's really a woman. So I'll stick with the Filipinas and the and the Latinas, man. So yeah, that's right, Howard. Let me see here. Yeah, CMM. All women are pretty cool. I agree with that. Yeah, exactly, Dr. Donna. Try taking care of more than one woman. And so that's the difference between me and a lot of you lefties. Is I was always brought up that it's a man's job to provide support and protection for his wife. So we don't have to have a maid raising our kids. All right. So my wife, when we first met, she was a legal secretary, amazing woman. But once we had kids, she stayed home with those babies, and they adore her for that because they know she didn't have to. She could have been a career-minded woman where her body and her soul is wiped out by the time she's 30 and no man wants to marry her, and her biological clock is ticking, and she's got a higher likelihood of birth defects. No, she did it the traditional way, and I appreciate that. I'm not putting any woman down who wants to pursue a career and all that, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord's traditional values, and it really has developed us some really great kids, and really just squared away kids, man. Oh, right on, man. Hey, a Puerto Rican woman. That's sharded down underpants said, I have a Puerto Rican woman. So Puerto Rican women, so I've dated quite a few of them as well. They're dangerous, but all Latin women are dangerous, man. They're just so sexy. My God. They're just absolutely drop dead sexy. They just know how to if you're a real man who likes to work out into the Second Amendment stuff, like kind of like for lack of a better word, an alpha male, that's how you want to get coupled up with one of them because it's like the yin and the yang, in my opinion. Hey, what's going on, Lorda? Good seeing you. Um, yeah, Insomniac, I totally disagree. Insomniac says liberals and Republicans are about the same. That's retarded. I mean, I've never met a Republican who thinks that men should compete in women's sports. I've never met a Republican who thinks that boys can be girls and that public schools should force that cult philosophy on children. Most Republicans I've met believe in homeschooling and keeping their kids as far away from the rainbow flag mafia as possible. Now, put it in the comments. What do you guys think? Give me a bunch of ones if you think that Republicans and Democrats are the same. Give me a bunch of twos if you think they're not. Oh wow, nice. That's awesome. Your woman is 5'10" and you're 6'7". Dude, you're a beast, man. Well, that's true. Jeff hates pigs, but the kind of women that you and I are after do respect and want a real man. But remember, a real man is somebody who's willing to take a bullet for his woman. And he's willing to work 18 hours a day to provide for her and those babies and make sure to leave her a nest egg, make sure to leave her something behind when he passes away. So if you're going out drinking and partying, trying to pick up broads and all that, that's not a real man. A real man is going to be loyal to his woman. So that's a really big deal. It's something you got to think about. And I think you already have. I think you already have. Yeah, that's right. woman who stays home to take care of the family. That is a strong woman. You're absolutely right, because she's putting faith in her man that he's not going to make the mistakes. He's not going to get fired. She's giving him confidence by saying, honey, I'm going to stay home and look after our babies, make sure the house is squared away. But by God, I have faith in you. You're not going to cheat on me, and that you're going to make sure that there's money and food on the table. And that's hard to find a woman like that. That's putting a lot of faith in a man. So that's an awesome woman right there. I agree with that. So Donna Walters says the DOE, DEI, and most three-letter agencies need to be abolished. Absolutely. Absolutely. They need to be abolished yesterday. That's for sure. Yeah, Howard, I think both parties are pretty progressive, but the left is off the rails. By the way, guys, rest in peace to Ozzy. I heard he passed away today. I'm not a big supporter of Ozzy Osbourne, but he's part of our history. He Black Sabbath and Ozzy and all that, Ronnie James Dio, that all came from there. And I'm sure Dr. Donna has a lot of bad things to say about it, but I loved Ozzy's music. I'm not into all the backward masking and Luciferian stuff that he was into, but he was a great musician, and I prayed for him today that hopefully he found Christ before he passed away. I felt bad for him. He was so into the world and so into drugs and all that stuff. So if you guys get a chance, say a prayer for Ozzy that he found the Lord before he passed away. And say a prayer for his family too. I'm sure they miss him. I don't know what he did, Insomniac. I don't know. Yeah, War Pigs. What an awesome song. Jeff Eats Pigs. So, guys, I'm at the gym. I got to go train. Dr. Donna, I'm going to do my very best not to look at all the sexy ladies at the gym and just focus on being in shape. You convicted me, so uh, please forgive me, Dr. Donna. I do appreciate you bringing me back down to earth. I guess that was a little immature of me. I'm not making up excuses. I'm not going to say that I can't help it. But what I will do is tell you that I definitely keep it in my pants. I know what my duty is as a husband and a father, and the last thing I'm going to do is let my kids ever see their father being disloyal to their mother. We're going to keep that. We're going to keep that going. Yep. So with that being said, thanks guys. Thanks for joining me. With that being said, work on your chins. Well, John Edward, yeah, I know you're right, buddy. So what happened to me, bro, is I got really bad sciatica and I was eating comfort food. So I definitely put on about 10 pounds of body fat. So I definitely do have a little double chin, but I'm here working on it. What are you doing, buddy? What, are you going to the gym? Are you eating right? I went back on a high protein diet. I've already lost about 6 pounds since my last show, leaning out of body fat. And I got my bench press back up to like 245. Not able to do squats anymore, so that's really hurt me because obviously muscle burns fat. But yeah, keep convicting me about the double chins, man. I got nothing bad to say about you for pointing out my inadequacies as a man. To me, I think all men should be exercising, working out. They should stay lean, keep that body fat down, stay squared away at all times. Hit the gym, hit the rifle range at least once a month. Shooting is a diminishing skill. Teach your kids how to disassemble and clean their firearms. Buy as much gold and silver as you can get your hands on, and store as much non-perishable food as you can and water, and always be ready and prepared if something goes wrong. You can make sure your family's taken care of. So, with that being said, guys, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Semper Fi, do or die. Talk to you guys.